Right, okay, everyone. So today let's discuss about I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings by Maya Angelou, right? So first of all, let us read the poem loudly, right? Everyone read with me. The free bird lives on the back of the wind and flows downstream till the current ends and dips his wings in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stools down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The cage bird sings with fearful tread of the things unknown, but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn bright lone, and he names the sky his own. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful thrill of things unknown, but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. A poem by Maya Angelou. Right, everyone. So, what is this poem? Right now, you all know, even though I tell it every day, it's important to remember the fact that when we are actually discussing or analyzing a literary text, remember the 6 criteria, right? Sense, theme, tone, feelings, techniques, and the judgment. So, when you actually look at this poem, right, what is the sense? So this is a poem actually where it's very important to understand the background of the poetess, because that gives a lot of meaning, that makes lots of things clarified for us. So let's see what is the sense of the poem. When you look at the first stanza, the free bird lives on the back of the wind and flows downstream till the current ends. So it's actually very simple that it's about two birds. And there is this free bird who just, freely jumps and flies everywhere, moves with the wind and flows downstream, just comes down near the water, almost touching or not touching the water, right? And dips his wings not in the water, but in the orange sun rays. It is exposed to sun rays and dares to claim the sky. So he's like a very free bird. He's like a king there, very free, limitless freedom. Now look at the contrast. But a bird that stools or walks down his narrow cage. Think about a caged bird, a bird in a prison can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped or like held tightly, and his feet are tied. So he opens his throat to see. A bird in a cage can see only a little bit. There's a limit to the distance that he or it can see rather. And then the wings can be clipped, cut and or like fastened tightly, so it can't even go out. Even though if it gets a chance, it can't fly away. It has only one way to express himself, that is to sing, probably a sad song. The cage bird sings with fearful tread, but when he sings also, he sings with a very sad sound of the things unknown. He would like to talk about the things that he has never seen, that he can see far away, right? Maybe he wants to go there, but longed for still. He's talking or singing about things that he wishes to see. And his tune is heard on the distant hill, because What's the reason? The bird song is heard everywhere. It goes with the wind. Why? He sings of freedom. Very important thing. Liberation. Because only the one who is not liberated, only the ones who are not free, only the ones who are imprisoned really know the pain of it. So he sings about it. He wants a solution for that. But the free bird thinks of another brace. The free bird doesn't have things like that to worry about. It just waits for another brace, little wind. And the trade winds soft through the sign trees. And of course, the wind will blow very quickly. How does it come? Trade winds soft through the sign trees. The trees are, rather, the leaves are moving with the wind. And the wind, passes the trees and anyway comes. And the fat worms waiting on the dawn bright lawn. And then food is very much, in plenty, because everywhere, raw worms are there. Whatever the bird wants, if it is a free bird, it can eat. It has a choice of food, choice of movement, right? Choice, and also the freedom of movement. And he names the sky his own. So we see, polar opposites, so different. One has all the freedom, whereas the other does not have. But a caged bird stands on a grave of dreams. Now, a free bird may have very happy, sweet, joyous dreams to wait for another breeze, to think about a different food. But a caged bird has dreams too, but those dreams are like, grave of dreams. They are like, dreams that will never be realized. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. He only sees nightmares or bad dreams. His wings are clipped. His wings are, cut, or they are put together. And his feet are tied. So he opens his throat to sing. So that is the only thing he can do, singing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill. See the repetition of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. Right? So you can see how the writer uses throughout mainly two techniques. What are they? Right? She uses two symbolic characters, a free bird and a caged bird. That's very much apparent, very clear. And number two is a repetition, right? In order to highlight the point that she wants to repeat. What is the point actually that she wants to repeat? It is about freedom. It's about liberation, right? So under the main theme of society, the writer talks about freedom. Now, that's the kind of basic idea that we gather from the poem. But do you think, I'm sure you all know that, a poem talks more than that. So this poem is not only about two birds, right? This poem is a poem that stands for the underprivileged people or the downtrodden masses in the world. So what do, what is rather symbolized by the cage bird and the free bird? So think about that. I'm sure you know there are different interpretation when it comes to the free bird. Maybe the whiter skinned man, the rich person, politically, economically, socially, class-wise, status, tattva, right? Status-wise, people are powerful. Not all, some. They are referred to as free bird. If they want to buy something, they will buy. Why? They are free when it comes to economy. They can buy what they want. They can go wherever they want because they have money for the bus or etc. So the people with power, the people with status, or even the white-skinned man are actually symbolized by the free bird. Right now, that is a situation when we think and think, that is a situation is important to read about the writer. So being an African American poet and a person, Maya Angelou had experienced a brutality, the kind of, real bad things of racism, Chativade. And through her literary work, she projects herself as a spokesperson of Black people, and especially Black women and their civil rights. This poem is also a metaphor illustrating the social discrimination, Samaja Sadharanakam Bedin Samajetiana faced by people. Throughout this poem, Cagebird is an extended metaphor that represents the oppressed people of the world who suffer from numerous social injustices, Samaja Sadharanaka. So when actually Maya Angelou wrote this poem, as a person coming from an Afro-American background, she wanted to highlight that in an African-American situation, right, before slavery was abolished, slavery එහෙම නැත්නම් වහල්භාවය නැති කරන්න කලින් තිබුණු සමාජ වටපිටාව ගැන, right? She wanted to tell it, and she wanted to highlight through the free birth the ones who have power are the white people. They thought they are the only civilized one. They thought they are the only ones with the proper religion. So they considered blacks and people with the brown color skin as, not good enough, not good like them. So that is the beginning. But today, I mean, as well as there, during that time as well as today, not only the whiter skinned man, but the writer also symbolizes the privileged people, powerful people with the idea of free birth. So free birth is a symbol of, or a symbol for the whiter skinned man, for the powerful man, for the economically, socially, politically powerful person, right? And the cage bird is a person, is a bird who actually is used to, who is actually used to symbolize Black people, or the people who are in the lower category in the society, right? The common masses, Samana Janatava, the working class, the underprivileged, the downtrodden, Piditapanthya, downtrodden people, right? So that is the symbolism that we see. And also the cage in this poem suggests various situations that make people feel caged in life. Right now, when we think about our society, different things make us feel caged. Maybe your culture, right? Maybe your context, possibly, maybe your economic situation, maybe the fact that you belong to a certain race, right? Maybe the fact that you belong to a certain class. ගොඩක් දේවල් නිසා So the cage in the poem suggests various situations that make people caged in life. And such people might not have freedom. They are denied of freedom. For example, now what are the things that make people underprivileged? What are the things that make people feel they are caged? මොනවාද හේතු ඒගොල්ලන්ට මිනිස්සුන්ට හිතෙන ඒගොල්ලන් හිර වෙලා කියලා. For an example, poverty, දුප්පත්කම, ignorance, not knowing, no intelligence, no education, class, තත්ත්වය, එහෙම නැත්නම් caste, කුල භේදය, racism, ජාතිවාදය, politics, conflicts, war, violence, හිංසනය, social inequality, සමාජ විෂමතා, right? Some have money, some don't have. And gender discrimination, right? Because of being a man, in certain cultures, they get lots of benefits. Some cultures, some countries, being a man, man කෙනෙක් නම් එයාට ගොඩක් වාසි තියෙනවා. A woman is shown or seen as a kind of not really important person. So the gender discrimination. So those are things that make us feel caged. ඒක ලස්සන poem එකේ කියනවා. Now if you look at the second stanza, a bird that stows down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. Now, the person who is in the cage knows that my life and everything in my life is limited. So even in this poem, the bird in the cage thinks that the things that are used to make the cage or the bars of the cage are what? Bars of rage. Right? Okay, so basically this poem like this is about the problems in the society, the injustices in the society. So theme-wise, the writer refers to freedom, nidahasa, or we also call it liberation, right? Suppression, කෙනෙකු යටක් කරගෙන ඉන්න එක, privilege versus unprivileged, වාසි තියන අය සහ වාසි නොමැති අය. කලබා, වර්ණ භේදය, racism, ජාතිවාදය. And techniques-wise, we have symbol. Actually, the whole poem is a metaphor for what? For freedom. But throughout the poem, we see symbolism, the two birds, right? And we have a narrative. There's a story, the daily life, the visions and dreams of the two birds. There's a story. And simple diction, comparison and contrasting. Through that comparison only, we as readers get the idea. If there was only one bird කෙනෙක් විතරයි නම් හිටියේ මෙච්චර අදහස් අපිට දැනෙන්නේ නැහැ. But it is showing us, okay, free bird has these things. The cage bird doesn't have these things. These are the visions of the cage bird, right? And also, a very important thing is there, that is throughout the poem, actually, we can see lots of, visual imagery. So, when the writer talks about the sun rays, orange sun rays, right? And then the free bird who moves in the sky, right? And the narrow cage, the wings which are clipped, right? And also the fact that, the trees are moving, right? The lawn, the fat worm, right? And then the grave. So lots of visual imagery to bring out the idea. And also personification. Personification is used to refer to the bird. So we understand there is not only a surface idea, but an underneath idea. It's also about people. So when you consider these factors, I'm sure you can answer the model question given. What can we think about this model question? Let's read it first of all. How does the poetess suggest that the society is unfair as inequality rings the world? Rajakarana, right? So what are the keywords, everyone? Let's see the keywords. So how, right? And then society. What are the other things? Unfair, inequality. So these are the keywords, right? How does the poetess suggest that the society is unfair as inequality reigns the world, right? Now, how do you express your ideas on this? So first of all, society is unfair. That is the first keyword, right? The society is unfair, right? So society being unfair is the main fact that you have to start your answer with. How can you do that? You can say at the very beginning that the writer or the poetess projects two birds, free versus a cage bird. And the writer uses personification. Through that, the writer shows that not only in the animal world or in the bird's world that we see unfair situations, but also in the human society. What are the unfair things in the natural or the animal world or bird's world? Some birds are free, some birds are not free. Some birds can move freely, some birds have to stay the whole life in a cage because they are caught by someone. They are put in a cage by someone, right? So tell that first of all. The writer shows that the lives and the world of the birds and animals can be unfair, right? Okay. that same factor is highlighted or like connected to the human society. Birds ලා එහෙම නම් මේගොල්ලන්ගේ ජීවිතේ සාමාන්‍ය මිනිස්සු සමාජයේ ඒ වගේ. So there you say the free bird symbolizes these people, the whiter skin, privilege, etc. And then the cage bird symbolizes the underprivileged, etc. So that shows that in the society, like we saw with regard to the two birds, in our society also, what's happening always is very unfair. Some have money, some don't have. Some don't have freedom because of their race, because of their background. Some others have freedom, right? Some have power, others are poor, others are rich. So differences, it's not fair. And when there is no fairness, samana bhava, no equality, samana bhava නැති වුණාම what happens? Inequality reigns, right? It's not good. You know, majority may be suffering. Right? ඒ ප්‍රධාන අදහස කියන්නේ. ඊට පස්සේ ඒ එක්කම don't forget to tell how. මේ points එක යන අතරතුර හොඳට කල්පනා කරන කොයිම වෙලාවකවත් question එකකදී narrate කරන්න එපා. Right? So when you start the answer for this question, the society is unfair. Or පටන් ගන්න ඕනේ answer එක අන්නේ point. The society is unfair and it is shown first of all with the use of two birds in the animal world. If the animals and birds have no fairness in lives, as the writer shows, the same thing can be seen in the human world also. For example, the two birds are different. One has privileges, other doesn't. So that is unfair. එකම වර්ගයේ birds ලා දෙන්නෙක් වෙනද, but that's unfair. If that is same with them, it's same with the humans. And the poetess beautifully presents that through the visual image, through the comparison and the contrasting, through the symbolism she develops. Right? So finally highlight the fact that when there is unfairness, there is no equality. That is why this poem is not just a poem that talks, okay, he has this, other one doesn't have this. No, it's a poem that goes beyond that. එතනිනුත් එහාට යන poem එක. This is a call for freedom. This is a call for liberation. Freedom එක නැති කෙනා ගැන compare කරලා අපිට පැහැදිලි කරලා අපිට idea එකන, okay, we all need equal freedom කියන එක poem එක හරහා අදහස එනවා. ඒක නිසා තමයි poem එක නිකම්ම it's not about two birds. It's not about privilege versus underprivileged. නිකම්ම privilege කෙනෙක් සහ underprivileged කෙනෙක් අතර වෙනස පමණක් දකින poem එකක් නෙමෙයි. It's a call for freedom. It's a call for liberation. It's a poem that shows freedom is important for everyone. Fairness is fairness can suduneme. Fairness here means sadharane. Fair and a fair world is needed for everyone, right? So think about that question, write it. Don't forget when you write an answer, 30 minutes only have to be taken. 5 minutes to read the question, write your outline, and be honest to yourself. Do it within only 30 minutes. My target is when you actually revise a poem and write an answer, and you should write it within 25 minutes. Because in the exam, then you get more time to deal with the question, to think, to select, to underline the keywords. So you get bonus time in the exam because you have trained yourself for 25 minutes. So you can identify your speed, you can increase your speed. That should be your target, right? So think about this question, right?